think that is something which we...
The responsible is to resolve those disputes and hopefully involve the local community to see what they want and fall on the side of what the communities want, providing it's within the rules and regulations that we have to follow as dictated by the government. And they are pretty strict in terms of what they will and will not allow.
A local resident from Frodsham has complained about being accosted by drunks on a Friday and Saturday nights in the village centre. How will the new council work to tackle this persistent antisocial behaviour, perhaps with our partners?
Well, Frodsham sits within the what do you call it, the rural North and Northwich area, of which we will have hopefully 1 or 2 members on that area partnership board. And the way I would see it working...
To address, we do give quite considerable grants between the City Council, Chester City Council, and I think and the County Council give quite large grants to Chester Reforms. Off the top of my head, is it 40 or 60,000 a year? We do need to make sure that we are getting value for money from that, and there's certainly someone we need to talk to. The points you make are well taken.
My question is on the future of the local joint highways committees and the speed limit review panels. In accordance with guidance set out in Department for Transport Circular 1 of 2006 for setting local speed limits, traffic authorities are asked to review the speed limits on all their A and B roads and implement any necessary changes by 2011. Cheshire County Council has employed consultants to carry out this review, and we are informed that the first phase of their proposals will be published as draft regulation orders in a matter of weeks. In accordance with county policy, which came into effect in July of 2007, that's 18 months ago, any objections to these draft orders would, if not resolved by the Road Safety Unit, which is in the Highways Department, involve local joint highways and transport committees and the speed limit review panel, making representations before a final decision is taken by the executive member for transport, and I'm talking about County Council. Bearing in mind the changes taking effect on the 1st of April, any objections to the first phase of orders are unlikely to have been resolved before then. My question is in 3 parts. Will Cheshire West adopt the County Council's policy of July of 2007 to allow a seamless implementation of the review by 2011? B, how does Cheshire West intend to deal with the issues currently dealt with by the local joint highways and transport committees? And C, do Cheshire West intend to reconvene the speed limit review panel, and if so, in what form?
Now, I'm answering this on behalf of Councillor Ritchie, who's the member responsible for this. But basically, the county policy is a policy that will carry on until it's reviewed, and it will be reviewed because the LJCs will disappear on the 1st of April, so there will be a need to review that. So I do see a seamless implementation of the speed reviews, as I hope we'll see a seamless implementation of all the other changes to the organisation that we have for the new council to deal with. There will be 1 highways committee, has been agreed in principle, subject to discussions at governance committee and agreement at council. But their intention is there will be 1 highways committee. I think what's important about these speed reviews is that we liaise more effectively and involve the local communities more, perhaps, than what's happened in the past, particularly for the B roads that go through our villages and our small hamlets. So I do see that it will carry on. There will be hopefully more involvement. And if there are disputes, that's down to the executive member. If our members are actually involved in the community, which I believe they should be, and they understand these issues and they get the feedback of these issues, then that should be fed to the lead member of that area who sits on that area partnership board. And that should actually be looking at, they will look at the information, is that a common problem in Northwich and other areas of that? If it is, then that should be one of the action agendas, one of the priorities in which they should be dealing with antisocial behaviour. Because it comes in many forms. It comes in our villages, it comes in our towns, and it certainly comes in the city. And if that's one of the priorities, then the agencies should work together to deal with that. If it's youth, if it's the elderly, I don't know what the issues are, but clearly they should understand what the root causes are and actually try and identify the things to actually deliver and resolve that. Now, that's broadly how I see that issue being dealt with. You've also got the direct route, is that they should be talking to the police through the current processes, through the CAT, the community action teams, where there is a partnership with the police, and actually making sure that we have good policing on there, and I'll certainly push effective policing on our streets in all our villages and towns, as well as our city. I think it's something we all would be looking for.
When a relative organises care through the council for an elderly person, and it is that person's intention to meet the entire bill, they find that there is a substantial additional premium added to the hourly rate that they are charged. Now, is this to continue?
I can answer that question in one word, no. Good. It won't continue. I spent a happy while trying to find out why this was, and I won't bore you all with details because it seemed to revolve around charging by the quarter of an hour, half an hour, or some quite unfathomable reason. But all of that will disappear on the 1st of April.
Well, the question relates to the transition going from the old district councils and Cheshire Council to the new authority, and the amount of work that will take. And my concern is, or at least I'm looking for an assurance, that the costs of that transition and the quality of the service delivery of that transition will mean that we keep within the costs that have been stated and the services don't diminish as a result of that transition. And my specific question is a specific one because I'm quite pleased that the authority is starting to put progress reports on the web. But of course, the more you see, the more questions come. But I'll try to be brief. The current reports suggest that the cost spent today is higher than budget due to the fact that you're ahead on aspects of the transition programme, which is good news. But on some of the programmes, when I look at the progress itself, you're showing it as amber rather than green. So my question is, if we're ahead on costs, i.e. spend is more than we thought, incidentally that's a typical profile for projects that are going to go way over schedule. If we're ahead on costs, and yet we're an amber on these projects, what is the reason for that? It appears to be an anomaly, so I'd like a reason.
No, it's very good questions, I have to say. First of all, let's start off with the bid that went to the government. I can't remember the exact numbers, but broadly, certainly Chester City Council and the new administration that took over in 2007 basically disagreed with those bid numbers. We believe that the costs were well understated by about 50%, 100%, and the savings were well overstated to make a case. In Parliament, the government had commissioned individual consultants to look at the bid costs in all the bids that were made to the government, and actually stated in Parliament that they believed the cost would be twice what was in the bid, and the savings would be less. And so it wouldn't be a 2-year payback period, it would be a 4 or 4.5 year payback period. And that's from memory. It's in Hansard, it's in November 2006 from memory. And I think the government's figures are probably more right than the bid figures. Now, there are a number of reasons for that. First of all, we're not just bringing together a council. We've made a strategic decision that we are looking at transforming the council into a totally different organisation. It's much more responsive, much more customer focused, much more community focused, and giving value for money. That requires some significant investment. It also requires a lot of planning as well. Now, the bid did not include the support for actually putting in place the organisation.